Like even our families to this day, because my husband, we run our business together, they like don't understand what we do. Like they're like, what do you mean you like work from home? And we'll go to masterminds like, you know, out in California and they'll be like, oh, enjoy your vacation. And we're like, it's not vacation. Like, you know, I'll go speak on stages and they're like, have fun. You know, I spoke in Texas and they were like, have fun at the rodeo. And I'm like, yeah, that comes after I speak on stage.
This is the Hard Thing Podcast. Today, we are overcoming average. Welcome back to another episode of the Hard Thing Podcast. This is the podcast that tries to help you weaponize the everyday hard things in your life to have a better life. We want to help you become a better person so that every hard thing in front of you strengthens you rather than discourages you. We want to give you the tips, tricks, tools, tactics, whatever you need in order to do that. And so to do that, we have set up this podcast. And today's our Monday show. So you hear from me and a guest, a high-performing individual who has been there, done that, put themselves down in the trenches and done some hard things and lived to tell the tale. And we're going to talk about how you can do the same thing. You can also listen to our Thursday episodes where me and my co-host Ty Crockett, by the way, I'm Justin Lewis, your host. Me and my co-host Ty Crockett put ourselves on display. We start experimenting with ourselves, trying to do hard things in order to give you somewhat of a roadmap and hopefully an example of how to do hard things. But let me tell you about today's guest. Today I talk with business owner Lisa Pizik, and she is a mom, a wife, a business owner, and she actually runs a podcast as well. Her business helps established businesses go online, create online courses so that way they can make more with their time rather than being bogged down with every individual person that they're working with. It was a fun conversation today, and we talked a lot about relationships. So I would key in on that specific aspect and try and learn what you can from Lisa Pizik. All right, well, thank you for being on the show, Lisa. I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Let me start off the show by asking you the question I ask all my guests, and I'm interested to see what you say because I didn't prepare you at all for this. What is the hardest thing you've ever done?
Ooh, man, the hardest thing I've ever done was moving. So I'm originally from small town, 1,000 people in the town, coal mining town in Pennsylvania. And I met my husband and we're here now outside Toronto. So I moved from little, everyone knows your name, small town to massive city, not knowing anyone outside my husband, not knowing anything. And my friends and family were like, why do you want to be with someone from Ontario and from Canada? And my husband's family from Canada were like, why do you want to be with this chick from the States? Like, what? They just could not understand. We truly had that like love at first sight, met on a holiday in the Dominican, not looking for love. And we knew that spark was there and we had to pursue that. But all the other logistical stuff, we were like, I have no idea how to immigrate to a country. I have no idea how to move and navigate, not only navigating our relationship, because we were doing long distance, to living together, to like getting up here and getting, you know, employment and working and, you know, with these two opposing sides going, why would you ever do this? So we always say that, you know, getting through that really set the foundation for our relationship and our marriage. We're rock solid. If we could navigate that, I was in my early 20s and he was in his like later 20s. If we can navigate that, we can navigate anything. And I can remember being at the Border Patrol and it was completely dependent on whether they just like wanted to let you in or not. And it was like this catch-22 because at the time I was a nurse. And they wouldn't let me take my nursing boards. They didn't recognize my education. They wouldn't let me take my nursing boards to work unless I was a citizen. And they wouldn't let me become a citizen unless I had my boards. So every time at the border, I'm like crying and I'm pleading and I'm like, I'm stuck in the middle. Like somebody's got to give. And after so many attempts, like I'm talking 10, 12 attempts, finally I got this really nice agent that was like, I will call, I'll talk to the nursing people I'll give you a 30-day pass. If you go, you take your boards, you pass, you're good to go. So I said to my husband, I'm like, this is how much I love you, because I should never have to take these boards ever again. And moving here, now I have to do that. So all these things that I swore I didn't know how to navigate, I'd never do again, trial by fire. That was how I got up here now outside Toronto and kind of acquainted. And that was just like such an emotional ride on so many levels. It's crazy.
Wow. I kind of want to dig into that a little bit. Relationships, especially marriage, is very difficult because basically you are signing a document saying, I'm going to be with this person regardless of whatever they do that annoys me, however bad it gets, however bad life turns, I'm going to be with them. My bet is on this person. Yeah. What sort of things, tactics, or lessons did you learn during that experience that would help other people transition to a relationship like that and be successful at it?
Mm-hmm. The beauty at the time was we didn't really have FaceTime yet. It's like 15 years ago. That all my husband and I could do in the very beginning was talk on the phone. We talked for hours and hours and hours, and we so intimately got to know, that marriage vow, like you said, is for better and for worse. And we so intimately got to know about each other, our past, where we want to go in the future. Do we want to have children? What do we see for where we live? What's important to us? Like, we tackled those conversations so early on. And that old-fashioned don't go to bed mad. Like, we would not stop talking until we figured it out. Even if it meant, we disagreed on something or we had an argument with something, we were like, we're going to step away and then we're going to come back together and we're going to figure this. Like, we are in this for the long haul. And we made that like very clear, early on. And we kind of set these are our we're not, if you do this, that's a deal breaker in the marriage for me. And we talked about that about respect and communication, cheating, we even said at the moment, because nobody's perfect. And we're like, at that moment, even with cheating, we're like, if we start thinking about someone else before the act would even happen, we're like, we're going to sit down, we're going to talk about it. And we're going to be like, I had this thought and I don't know what to do about it. And the other person's not going to be like, how could you? And instantly jump into their story. No creating stories in your head. We're going to have an open playing field where we can just go, here's what's going on in my head and I want to talk to you about it. Even before anything happens. And, I will say with my parents growing up, that was one thing I can remember. They always said, if you're drunk somewhere, if you're out drinking, like my 18-year-old self or 16-year-old self, call us. You're not going to get in trouble. We don't care where you are. We don't care what you did. Just call us. We'll get you home safe and then we'll talk about it later. And that kind of lesson has always been we're not going to jump in. We're not going to judge. We're going to have a level playing field, not make up stories, talk about it and resolve it. So that kind of, as those emotions came up through every transition that we had, long distance relationship, immigration, we have a 6-year-old now, parenting, having a child, we run our businesses together, we're together 24/7. We constantly are communicating, constantly. And sometimes my husband will even call me, he'll be like, you're making up a story. Stop it. He's like, whatever you're telling yourself in your head, that's not, because you'll be like, why'd you say that to me? Why'd you look at me that way? And they're like, my husband's like, well, look at you what way? I'm like, I'm doing dishes. And I'm like, no, you looked. And he's like, Lisa, you're making up a story. Level playing field. Okay, reset, fresh start over.
It's funny. I kind of thought, this is going to sound weird, but I thought my wife and I were kind of the only people that did a similar thing. We're to the point where, we share our thoughts, even thoughts that would kind of be embarrassing to talk to your spouse about. We share that because like you said, we figure we deal with this here so that way it never actually manifests in action form. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's brought us so close together. But I want to ask you, you said you had those crucial conversations very early on. You talked about those topics, and I'm one that believes that in marriage, especially with your spouse, no topic should be taboo. Why do you think you had those conversations when so many other people shy away from them?
I think because there was so much on the line, or I felt like there was just so much on the line. So we met in the Dominican, and neither one of us was looking for love. I was there with my single, nurse girlfriends. He was there with his guy friends. And it was my first day and his fourth day on the trip that he was there. So he was leaving the island earlier than me at the end of his 7-day vacation, right? I still had 6 days. He had 2 or 3. And he's going to kill me for saying this, but he cried when he was leaving because I guess I was kind of playing it cool. And he thought he was never going to see me again. He thought I was just being kind with yeah, you can have my number, even though we had an amazing 3 days together. And I was interested. I was just I'm a type A tactical person. So my heart felt it, but I was oh my God, he's from another country and I've never even been to Canada. I know nothing. I'm how's it in my job? I'm my nurse and I'm working,
Mm-hmm.
right? My tactical brain,
Overthinking.
He was leading with his heart and I was leading with my head. So I was playing it a little bit cool. And he got back, we texted each other. He said, I want to come and see you 2 weeks after we got back. So of course, families already think we're crazy. I lived on my own in my apartment. So of course my friends are you're letting a guy that you had 3 days with from another country come to your apartment and stay with you. He could be a murderer. He could be a rapist. You're crazy. And I was no. And then my heart, I was no, I just know. And he came and I can remember that first glance, that first hug, that first kiss. And then I knew this was the man I'm going to marry. And I think so that was 2 weeks within meeting each other. And we got engaged 3 months into, I thought I would be dating someone for a couple years, then getting, so not the plan that I knew I had to leave it on the line. I had to move. I had to leave behind friends and family and get a new job and not a new career, but just, a new learning. Everything was going to be so new for me that I really had to make sure that I knew everything about this. There weren't going to be any surprises. Mm-hmm. And same, he had that risk too of he had to be fully in to move me up here and be kind of that rock for me because friends and family couldn't understand. So there was just so much, I think, at risk. People say, yeah, you could just turn around. You could have gone home. Not, if it didn't work out, not easily. So I think that element of all or nothing, going all in, we weren't dipping our toes in the water. It was I'm moving. This is big. It's all or nothing. This is a big risk. That drove those. I knew moving up was going to be difficult, just logistically. I didn't want to move up there and then find out something and then have this big blow up fight the first night we were living together there kind of thing. I was I want to figure this all out before I even come up there. So that happened in a span of it was 9 months. We did long distance, but after 3 months we were engaged. So, that happened in a 3-6 month kind of span of these kinds of conversations. So it happened quick. Yeah.
That is what I would define as due diligence. In many different cases, you see an opportunity and you have to do your due diligence to make sure it's a real opportunity. I think that's exactly what you guys did. And it's so fascinating that your friends and family didn't or couldn't understand what you were going through, what you were wanting. And as you were describing to me before the show, that's how they feel right now about your business. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep. They're why would you want to do hard things? Right? Why would you want to, put yourself out there and have criticism and apply to this thing and get denied, or, launch something and it flops. And, we tend to only see the highlight reel. We don't share a lot of the the struggle and how long it takes to establish yourself and have those huge wins. And my friends and family are very blue collar, go in, clock in, do your job, keep your head down, don't make waves, don't upset anyone, be thankful for what you have, which works for some. Some people, not everybody wants to be entrepreneurial. Not everybody wants to throw themselves in the middle of the ring and get their butt kicked. They're like, no, thank you. I've always been kind of that, like the world's going this way. I always say that I'm highly unemployable, because it's like, this is the way we've always done it. This is the way the world's going. And I'm like, I don't want to go that way, but this is so much better this way. And I've always been that. I used to call myself the black sheep of the family, but I'm like, no, I'm the white sheep of the family, because I'm like shifting dynamic and shifting relationships, and whether you come with me or not, I'm still going. Yeah. So they like to play it safe, but they're not happy. That's the thing. You think that comfort makes you happy. It can for so long. And then you get that frustration where marriages break down, relationships break down, you're not parenting the way you want. That it might manifest itself as something else, but that's that, you lay your head on the bed at night and go, is this really life? And maybe nobody ever shares that with someone, that those are your thoughts. But unless you're willing to risk it, you're never going to get out of that comfort. You're never going to grow unless you're willing to risk it. And I love them dearly because they're friends and family, but we don't have a heck of a lot to talk about when we get together over wine. And, it's like, I can't even share because they just don't, and it's not their fault. They just don't think the way I think.
Yeah. Different paradigms.
And they can't understand why you would do that. Like why I would do that.
Exactly. You use the word highly unemployable. And if possible, I'd like to kind of push back on that. What I've found in talking to entrepreneurs is that they could be very employable. They could be extremely good employees, but they just have different ambitions. Like if you took an entrepreneurial spirited person and you put them in a job and you said, I want you to do this job as good as you can, they'd figure out ways to do it better than you thought they could. So that way they don't have to spend as much time there. They can go do something else that they really enjoy. So I enjoy how you said highly unemployable, but I want our audience to know that that's not because you couldn't hold a job. You'd outgrow the job too fast. And you also said that your family likes to play it safe. In my family, I come from a very similar type of family where I talk to them about different business ideas, and they're like, yeah, that's a really good business idea. You should do it. And I said, no, but you guys are in the position to do that. And I find that playing it safe even isn't safe, because right now we're recording this in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. I have a day job right now, and 1 week we have a company meeting saying we're doing awesome. Last year we were kind of going down financially, but now we're back on track. We're doing great. We're profiting. And then a week later we had 15 layoffs. Those people weren't safe. They were playing it safe, but they weren't safe. Mm-hmm. So I think, like you said, when we focus on comfort and security, we're deluding ourselves and we're not playing it safe. So with that, I kind of want to ask the question, what made you start the business in the first place?
I was a gym rat when I was in nursing school, because it was how I needed that outlet. I'd been athletic when I was younger, played a lot of sports, so always, been in the gym and training and that kind of mentality. And I didn't have a lot of confidence, though. I appeared confident on the outside, but on the inside, my self-talk was so negative. And I didn't want to be the center of attention for anything. At the gym, taking fitness classes, and lots of people just kind of started to, even though I wasn't the instructor, just started to ask me questions and gravitate to me and kind of be gravitating to my energy, even though, which is so funny because on the inside, I'm thinking I'm no good. No one would ever want to listen to me. And at the gym, they said, you'd make an amazing instructor. And I'm like, oh, no. I like just being in the back row, doing my thing. And they just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And they believed in me before I believed in myself. Eventually became an instructor. classes grew from, I was a kickboxing instructor and weightlifting instructor. Classes grew from 5 people to 55 people. They were like arm in arm. And that was the first time I kind of went, okay, all right, okay, I have something here. Maybe I'm now seeing it, so now maybe I'll believe it. And one of the stipulations, I'm telling you, we talked about everything, of me moving up to Canada, I said, we have to find a gym and I have to be able to teach, because that's been such a confidence boost and a sanity thing for me. And my husband's like, okay, like if that's important to you, then we'll figure it out. So came up here, started teaching, and the same thing happened. Started growing the classes, gyms started getting all these members. So I'm getting paid $20 an hour to come in. Like it barely covers my gas, right, to get to the gym. And I'm making the gym all this money because people are like, we love Lisa. My friend told me about her. I want to come take her class. And then my husband said to me, why don't you just do this? Like, why don't we do this? Because he'd been entrepreneurial, freelance and graphic design and that whole thing. And he's like, why don't we just do, like, why don't you have a business? And I'm like, no. He believed in me. And he was like, we can do this, babe. We can do this. So opened my first kind of brick and mortar face-to-face class kind of thing, went and got a whole ton of certifications, and then realized I'm just like everybody else now, though. I'm trading hours for dollars. There's no freedom. And I'm still working as a nurse at the time. So I wanted to be an entrepreneur, to do it my way and have freedom. But I found I was working as a nurse all day and then working as a trainer, like before shifts, after shifts, weekends. I actually started hating the thing that I initially loved because I was working so hard. And then I thought there's got to be a better way. And that's when the online business was birthed. I was like, I'm going to have online nutritional consults, online training classes. This was before like Beachbody On Demand and all the big like names came into play. But I got my first taste of being to help people worldwide. And a lot of members from Pennsylvania, where I first taught, were like, you're now in Canada. How can I work with you? And that's where that was birthed. And that kind of naturally progressed to a little bit more of like life coaching. Because when you're in the health and fitness space, you realize that it's these deeper stories and things that people uncover of why they want to get better and look better and feel better. And I tested this theory of I'm going to overhaul for 6 months group coaching. And part of it's going to be business. I'm going to teach people how to have an online business. I'm going to see if that even, it was like relationships, health, business, your home, parenting. The business section is where people are like, oh my God, I want to know more about this. I want to know more about how you built the program that you built. And that made me realize that, again, the comfort zone. I was like, I'm doing good with my fitness business and my life coaching. But I realized that getting into what I do now, which is content creation, course creation, membership creation for the entrepreneur and the small business owner, that's my gift to help people spread that voice and go. And then my husband, who's always been in the digital side, the websites, the funnels, I loved the content and he loved that side. So we rebranded 2 years ago and now we work side by side together doing this business. But it wasn't really my own confidence that got me here. It was first other people believing in me, then being willing to go okay when I was scared to death, but then believe in myself when I saw the impact that I made. So my own self-confidence had to kind of do a little 180 or 360 sometimes even around the circle and the people that believed in me, which is why it's so important to have good people. But your circle is so important. And if it's not your family, it was not my family. It wasn't even my friends. It was fellow instructors at the gym and then my husband. So sometimes that circle isn't even who you think it's going to be. It's being open to when those right people come in, like listen to the people that know and tell you what to do because they love you and they care about you, even if they're not your mom or your dad or your cousin or your uncle or whoever it is, right? Your best friend. It was being willing to take that risk again and then believe it too. Now my confidence, and again, the more you do it, I shouldn't say I have no confidence issues. I do still get nervous. Like even coming on here, I was like, did my preparation and my warm-up exercises. I still get nervous because it matters. Mm-hmm. I always say it doesn't matter whether you're talking to one person or thousands of people. Being on a platform is an honor, and I don't take that lightly. So I still get nervous, but I believe in my ability because I know I work my butt off, and I was willing to take those risks to get better by doing it. Yeah.
I think you mentioned something that I kind of want to show to our audience. I believe that confidence comes from experience, and you built your experiences, which built your confidence. And I think that's so many times people say, I don't have the confidence to do that. Well, okay, you don't necessarily need to have the confidence to do that. You need to do something and then use that confidence to do the next thing, and so forth. Step 1, step 2, step 3. I also wanted to ask, and maybe this is a little bit of a personal question. Why did you have negative self-talk at the beginning?
So I grew up in a household where I was micromanaged and told who I was going to be friends with, who I was going to date, what college I was going to go to, what profession I was going to be. And if I didn't listen, there was going to be hell to pay. And I can remember calling home when I met my husband in the Dominican and saying, Mom, I met this guy and we're engaged. And my mom's first words were, oh, well, bring him for Thanksgiving. Your dad and I, we want to meet this guy and we want to celebrate with you. And the back of my head and my gut was like, okay. So we go, and my mom's like cutting the turkey with that like electric, I don't even know if they make those things anymore. They're like the chainsaw, knives, and the football game's on in the background, and the smells, and we were drinking wine, and I was like, this is nice. We go to sit down, we have the first course, we have the turkey, and it's going amazing. So I'm like, okay, clear the table. Pumpkin pie comes out. My husband takes the first bite and goes, wow, this is amazing, babe. You got to try a piece. And I'm like, okay. Literally as he's going to hand me the bite of the pumpkin pie, my mom stands up from the table in front of the whole family and says, Lisa Marie, don't you dare put another piece of food in your mouth. You're going to be too fat to fit into any wedding dresses. And just goes into how I've let myself go, and how could this man want to marry you? And in front of my whole family, I excuse myself from the table. I run upstairs to my bedroom, my old bedroom with like the New Kids on the Block, posters and the blue paneled walls and my little bedspread. And I thought, when I go back downstairs, my fiance, my husband, I'm like, he's not going to be there. I'm like, he's not going to marry into like this craziness. And he actually came running up the stairs behind me. And he's like, what was that? And I'm like, that's how my mom has talked to me my entire life. And he's like, well, that's not okay. And we left that day. We didn't stay for the remainder of the time there. And that was also one of the biggest factors where we were like, we're moving. We move. I start kind of pulling away and not talking to her as much. And then we have our son. And I think, okay, now when we do talk, it'll be about Oliver. It's not going to be about me. It'll be about our son. Nope. Criticizing my parenting, the choices I make. I would see that. So we had caller ID. We don't even have caller ID. Well, I guess your cell phone is technically caller ID. I would literally see the calls coming in on caller ID, and I could immediately just feel my face getting red, my heart start racing, because I knew it was either going to be a battle if I told her about what I was doing in my life, or it was going to be a criticism of something in my life. So I eventually we went almost about a year, and I just like stopped picking up the phone, stopped talking. And then one day I was pulling out of a parking lot and my phone was like bling, 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 bling. So my first thought was, oh my God, this must be serious. Something happened to my husband or my son. I better pull over. I better see what this like panic is. And I pull out my phone. It's my mom. And it says, Lisa, we haven't spoken in a while, but a few things I need you to know. You are heartless. You are soulless. I don't care about you. I don't approve of you. I don't care that you're not talking to me anymore. I need you to know your father and I talked, and you are no longer our daughter. And I threw down my phone, and I hadn't even looked up yet, but I'm like on the steering wheel, and I can feel the tears, like my eyes are just welling up. And I throw the car in drive because I'm just about to go out and get back on the interstate to go home. And I throw the car in drive, and I hear a voice. At that time, I was not spiritual whatsoever. I'm by myself in the car, and I hear this voice scream, stop. So I just slammed on my brakes. And just as I looked up, I heard it first. It was this massive transport truck. It would have wiped me out. Like, and I just said, enough is enough. I can't do this anymore. I can't have access to her. She can't have access to me. I can't speak to her. I can't let this in my life, because it wasn't just that. That voice was here. That voice held me back from so many things and made me question who I was. There was just this constant, I'm a risk taker and I love it. And then it was like, oh, who do you think you are? Oh my God, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to put myself out there, but you're so stupid. You're so fat. You're so overweight. You're a bad mother. Oh, I want to have this date night with my husband. Oh, I better dress up a little bit more, because why would he even want to be married to me? Like, this voice just lingered in my head. It was like I wasn't able to ever be truly happy. The second I let myself be happy, it was like that voice of my mom just was in my head. And all those things that I feared and didn't want to be, a bad mother, a bad entrepreneur, a bad wife, a bad daughter, I was like, that doesn't even matter anymore. Because if I'm not on this planet, I can't be a good or bad nothing. And I can't have that. So that literally was like the turning point for me of, where am I going to go and what am I going to do in my life? And a lot of personal development, a lot of therapy. I'd never gone to therapy. I was like, therapy is for people who are crazy. Like, I don't need to go to therapy. Oh, baby. It was like Pandora's box being opened the second I talked about and I had so much stuff to unpack and uncover. And people say, well, you got to forgive, forgive. The only way you'll fully be free is if you forgive. It took me 6 years to forgive. People think forgiveness is so maybe not easy, but it's like you have this thing and you work on yourself and then you forgive and it's all rainbows and butterflies. And that is not the way healing goes, and rewiring self-talk. And again, it's that daily practice of catching it and reversing it. Or if you have a day, unpacking what triggered that, or why did I feel that way, not just stuffing it down. Because I did actually end up losing. I lost over 100 pounds. I was quite heavier in my life. And it was because I was just stuffing down all those emotions and all those things I didn't want to feel and all those things that happened. And when I was finally able to talk about it and understand it and release it, the weight came off, the forgiveness came, and the forgiveness was not for her, it was for me to truly be free and almost to say thank you, because I wouldn't be the kind of woman that I am if I didn't have all those experiences. But that didn't come right away. It took me a while to get to that point, to see the goodness and the gratitude in it. And that's where that voice, it's that I'm very cognizant of how I speak to my son, because I know that even when I'm not with him, that is the voice that he hears up here as well. So I'm so careful with the way that we don't ever say you're a good boy or a bad boy. It's like, you might have made the wrong choice, buddy. You're a good boy no matter what. We love you no matter what. You just didn't make the best choice. And let's talk about that. Like, no hits to his person, like who he is as a human. Like, even that, like, I don't approve of you. You're not my daughter. You're a terrible mother. That's what society does to women. They try to knock us down in the roles that we are, because that's how we identify ourselves, as mothers, as lovers, as wives, as, entrepreneurs. So I really make sure that I don't ever talk about him as a person. It's the choices that he made or the words that he chose to use. I grew up wanting to be a good girl all the time, right? And please mom and please everyone and make everyone happy. And that even transferred into my adulthood. I couldn't deal with conflict. Like, I was like, everyone has to hold hands and sing Kumbaya, and I'm going to be the one to make everybody happy. And that's not life. There is conflicts and people disagree and arguments happen. And it was, to circle back, in those early conversations with my husband, like, he's like, why are you getting so mad about this thing? You're like, what? You're like blowing up over the dumbest thing. And I was like, oh my God, because I don't know how to handle conflict. I don't know how to fight fair. Like, all these things that were modeled to me, I did. And I had no awareness of it, that that's not how you fight with people. That's not how you treat people. You don't do low. I was like such a low blow. Like, I would say the thing that would hurt you the most, because that's what my mom did to me. And that's what my dad and mom did to each other. And they would scream at each other, and then they would go away. And then we'd all come back and sit down at the family table. And it would be like, that never even happened. Like, they just wouldn't even talk about it. And that's where that whole, we're with my husband, we're going to talk about this. Like, we can't, well, first of all, we don't even scream at each other. We don't raise our voice. Like, that's a respect thing, right? But it's like, we can't have this huge disagreement and then just act like that didn't happen and get over it. That's how I was like, low blow, get over it. That was the expectation. Like, that's not how the world works. So that was just, you don't know what you don't know until you see a different perspective. And I thought that was how families interact and how people talk to each other and how the world works. So I'm quite thankful that I, again, chose to just kind of do something different and look at it a different way, because I definitely we parent our 6-year-old so much differently than I was ever parented.
I'm glad that you brought up the strategic side of how you talk to your kids and how you talk to yourself. And I think that's very important. An important message to share just with everyone. And I think your stories highlight the importance of the people around you, because you've had both good people who have propped you up, pushed you to be better, and people who, while much closer, were not the best in your life. And I'm actually surprised. I thought going into this show, it would be a little bit more about business, but it's been all about relationships. And I think that's a good thing, because I feel like that's maybe what we should have been talking about. But I do have a couple questions about your business before we run out of time. So your business helps people start online courses.
Courses, memberships. Yep.
So who do you help? And where does the business need to be in order to create these courses? And where do you start in creating these courses?
Mm-hmm. So we help established business owners. I used to say we help everyone and we can take anybody online. But I feel like you got to have skin in the game. Like, established business owners have a why, have a necessity, have that risk, or that this has to work, not because this has to work because it means that I'm valuable, I'm needed, I'm necessary. This has to work because this is what I do. Like, this is my mission and my purpose on this planet, and I'm determined to figure it out. So established business owners are already in it. Sometimes the newbies think it's really easy or want to make money quick and want to, be sipping Mai Tais on the beach in their yacht after 1 month of online business. And I used to try to explain that entrepreneurship is a long-term game. And I thought, I don't want to explain anymore. I just want to work with those people that are in it. They get it. It matters. They know who they are. That self-talk, self-searching alignment piece is so, so, so huge. And I always tell people, if you don't know who you are and you don't know what goodness you want to bring into the world, there's some work to be done before you come to me. Because when you come to me and my husband, we go. Like, we produce, we get rocking and rolling. We start creating content and zeroing in on your messaging. And most times people have tested, like they've done things one-to-one, like they're therapists or real estate agents, or they've kind of got systems or topics or strategies or things that they've tested offline. Those are the kind of people that I want to take online. You know who you are, you know what goodness you bring into the world. You kind of have an idea of how you do that, and we just have to mold it and shift it online, because talking in a room to someone is so different than talking into a camera. The words that you say, like, there's people think it's just as easy as, oh, I do it offline, I can just take it online. And the attention span of people is like, 7 seconds now? A goldfish has a better attention span than we do. There's so much that goes into your words, your physicality, just the way that you are to get people to stay with you. And I think that fitness world really helped me develop that. And even being a nurse, the empathy piece to really understand and feel people, I help people translate that on screen. So established business owners and people that want to go bigger. Not necessarily bigger in the sense that, like, I want to make $1 million. If that happens and that comes, amazing. But they're like, more people need this outside of my community, outside of my company, outside of my town. I've got something that's going to move and shift the world. So we work with a lot of relationship experts, therapists, fitness trainers. We really work with like a mix of mindset coaches, people that want to shift the way people think and the habits that they have in their life and their relationships with people, because it's that ripple effect, right? Like, I always think, who benefits when you make yourself better? It's always, I saw that ripple effect even with my mom. It was like the way I parent, and my husband and my son. And so it's people who want that ripple effect. They want to help people get better so that the world gets better. And people that just want to slap something up quickly to make some revenue because they saw this influencer on Instagram do it, they're not the right people for me. Or the flip side, I guess I'm talking a lot about who I don't want to help than maybe who I do help. The flip side, I have had a lot of people that have a lot of money and are really accomplished on paper, but they're jerks. Like, it's like the I pay you, so I own you kind of stuff. And I'm very clear about, we work super hard for you. We act like your business is our business, but I'm also a mom. I'm also a wife. I will not be answering your call at 3 a.m. Do not text me at 10 o'clock at night and expect an answer. Like, boundaries. And anybody that I have to set these strong boundaries with, again, I'm not interested, because business is just a piece of your life. It's just a piece of the goodness that you do. There's other things that are made possible because you have this successful business. And I want people that understand, I don't like the word work-life balance, but people that understand there's a rhythm between the roles that you have in your life, right? And those are the kind of people that I tend to gravitate to, people that have children, that, care about spouses and partners, and they get that there's life outside of business. But they have that, again, that huge mission to have that ripple effect. So what's cool about us is we're a complete done for you system, meaning that everything from that idea to the branding, to the design, to the copy, to the creating the videos, to the delivering the videos, to then the design, the tech, the launch. We have the whole team that takes you from start to finish. And most people love that because you can spend a lot of money hiring a lot of people. And then when it doesn't go right, people want to blame, well, the coder didn't do the developer, the designer didn't. Then we're like, no, we got the team. Like, we just take you through. It's a seamless process from start to finish.
Oh. And then one last question before we kind of close out with some of our final questions. So where do you start in creating this course? Like, how do you create the ideas, or what do you do with your clients?
I always start with the question, what's the end game? What's the end game for your ideal client that needs you? So a lot of people use pain point marketing, and there is a place and time for sure for pain point marketing. But I love the aspirational marketing. What is your life going to look like when you figure that thing out? When you finally lose those last 10 pounds? When you sell that house? When you get in your dream house? When you reignite love between a couple that are just at each other's throats? How is their life going to shift and mold and change when they figure it out? And then what are those steps that they need to take? Everything comes back to the aspirational feelings, but then the how-to steps to get there. So we just work it in reverse from that aspiration, getting out of that pain. But everything we do also has two things that makes us different. Worksheets, implementation. It's not just a course where someone is yipping and yapping at you. You got work to do, because we know that change requires us to do some work. So there's always some sort of journaling, worksheet filling out, exercises or activities that they go through. And then the last part is some sort of live component with it, whether it's a live event, live Zoom call. People want that community and that connection, even though they're buying a course or a membership. I mean, now more than ever, as you said, we're in this pandemic state. We're realizing how much human connection is so important for our growth. So those are the two pieces: having people do working through those steps, and having some sort of live coaching, live community, live component with whatever you're taking them through and action steps that we work them through. So aspiration, steps, work, some sort of live component with it.
Excellent. Well, Lisa, it has been so fun talking to you. This has gone in a different place than I thought it would, and I'm glad it did, because it was much more authentic, much more real, and more fun. So let me ask you the couple questions that I ask all my guests at the very end of the show. Based on our conversation today, what 1 to 3 action items would you give our audience to do today or this week to improve their lives?
So I would start to question that self-talk. If you're saying something that isn't kind to yourself in your head, question where that came from. Is that truly your own voice talking to you? Or is that your mom? Is that a boss? Is that an ex-boyfriend? Is that something that you don't want to own anymore? You might not know quite yet how to fix it, but at least if you have that awareness and you know that's not mine to carry, I didn't come up with that belief on my own, I want to let that go. Get on top of your self-talk, because that is everything. The second one, there's power in your story. We're so afraid to tell people what we've been through, where we've been, the things we've overcome. We're so afraid of judgment and shame, and the story is what binds people. We've all experienced some sort of pain or loss or celebration or happy moment. Stories are what make us human, and stories are what build solid relationships, solid businesses. So intimately think about what you've been through in your life, and don't be afraid to share that with people. And then lastly, everything is strategy. We talk about that inspired action, and I always challenge that, because I'm like, the action comes first, and then the inspiration I find comes after that. So that strategy of what is that end game? What am I trying to achieve? I always say everything has 5 steps. If you're like, I want to lose 10 pounds. Okay, what are the 5 steps you need to do to make that happen, right? You got to look at what you're eating. You got to look at how you're moving. You got to look at what you're drinking. Like, we know there's 5 steps to whatever that is. That's the strategy. So don't just blindly hope things will change or, wish that you're going to wait to be inspired to finally do that Monday morning. Set the strategy and go. And you can achieve whatever you put your mind to. Because even if you take that step and you miss, I never call it a failure. I always say it's a miss, right? They don't miss the shots in basketball and then walk off the court and go, oh, I'm done the game. I missed the shot. They take more shots. It's a miss and it's an opportunity. Maybe you need to rejig your next step from what happened. So strategy and steps and move and go. And the right next step will reveal itself to you if you don't know what that is. But the action is what gets you there.
Wonderful. And then, Lisa, how can our audience reach out to you, support you, and see what you're up to?
Yeah, so everything is housed on my website, which is my name, Lisa Pezik. So it's www.lisapezik.com. I've got the podcast on there, the blog on there, weekly newsletter, social media channels are on there, and I have a freebie, which are the 3 must-haves for any business, and that talks about your purpose, your platform, and your product, and it's really stripping it back to simplicity. I think people are craving that simplicity right now. And that pulls you back into the simplicity piece of your business. So that's there to download for free. If anyone's wanting to build a business and pivot, I would love to have that in your hands and help you that way as well.
Awesome. Well, Lisa, like I said, it's been just wonderful having you on the show. I've enjoyed it very much. So thank you for being here.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
Thank you guys for listening to today's episode. What did I tell you? What a fun conversation. Lisa is fiery. She's amped up. She's fun to talk to and very energetic. And let me tell you, even listening to it a second time while editing, I found many things that I want to try and implement in my life to be a better person. So thank you so much for staying tuned and enjoying the podcast. And just for that, I want to give you something for free. So if you want to go to audibletrial.com/thehardthingpodcast, you can actually get a free audiobook today. And that actually goes towards helping us with the podcast, but it also gets you that free audiobook and helps you start a free 30-day trial of Audible, which allows you to buy all sorts of books at a discount. They have over 180,000 titles. One of my favorite books on there is actually the complete works of Sherlock Holmes, which is a fantastic reading, fantastic listening, especially read by Stephen Fry as it was. So go get your free audiobook today, audibletrial.com/thehardthingpodcast. Now, if you also want to support the podcast, I would highly recommend going to the Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/thehardthingpodcast. There, you can band with like-minded individuals who are like you, trying to do hard things. Also, you can actually submit challenges to me and Ty for our Thursday show that we will do. And these challenges are hard and they're difficult, and hopefully they're submitted by you, and it gives you an opportunity to see someone else do something difficult that you can then follow in their footsteps. So go to facebook.com/groups/thehardthingpodcast. Next, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode. Again, episodes every Monday and Thursday on the dot. Also, if you're on YouTube, make sure you hit that notification bell. Never miss a single episode. And then I also want to invite you to help us raise $1,000 for the nonprofit organization Operation Underground Railroad. Go to gofundme.com/overcoming-average, donate some money there. And I'd also encourage you to go to OURrescue.org, where you can learn about Operation Underground Railroad. And I want you to imagine yourself as a young kid, back when you were maybe 10 or 11, and it's Friday night, and it's Halloween. And you are thinking about all the houses you can visit, all the scary things you're going to see, and all the fun you're going to have. Now, I want you to contrast that with children who are stuck in sex trafficking. Instead of thinking about candy, they're thinking about their next meal. Instead of thinking about fun with their friends, they're thinking about how to avoid being raped by people that they feel they should have trusted, or at least they should be able to trust, but instead have betrayed that trust. Operation Underground Railroad goes undercover to rescue these kids out of these really bad situations and puts them in aftercare homes where they have a better life. And you can help make a difference in those kids' lives. So donate some money either to Operation Underground Railroad or help us raise money for them at our campaign. Either way, get involved, help rescue some kids. Now, the last thing I want you to do, I want you to go out and do some hard things, because I promise you, friends, you will overcome average.